of External Affairs, where you, social media viral extravaganza, former NYPD officer, reveal the inner workings, the shenanigans, and the nonsense at the NYPD and New York City at large. How you doing, Sal? Good to see you.
Well, it's good to see you. It's another Friday, and out here actually in South Florida and Fort Lauderdale. If you remember, you were here last year, I believe, when we had the air show, which is a 1 year anniversary almost. It's a 2 day event. Well, usually just Saturday and Sunday, where they have an air show right near the beach, right on Lauderdale by the sea, all the way down to Fort Lauderdale Beach, and all the we'll say all these planes come by. You might hear them whizzing by. Friday is the practice run, which was when you were here, was on a Friday. So it's a shame we couldn't do it again this year, but there is the air show coming up here in Fort Lauderdale. So there it is, 2026. You could see this for the planes go down. They probably almost hit Pompano, or they're in that area. Being from Pompano, you could see it. So it's a great time for your family too, if you want to take them down there. If you're gonna do any, smoking marijuana, stuff like that, please go to another place. There's families and kids there. We don't want that kind of environment around. So go back to stay in New
People
York, actually.
are people doing that at the air show? A lot of weed
Yeah,
being
yeah,
smoked?
yeah,
Really?
yeah, yeah. You're gonna see people there all the time. I mean, these are the kind of planes, these jets. You can hear them. They're literally buzzing my home right now. They're buzzing outside. They come right down. You can hear it. Your whole house will vibrate.
Think
So I
about
mean,
how
you were here last year to
dangerous.
see it.
Yeah,
You were here
it's
last year. It was
impressive.
great.
But think about how dangerous this is to have these jets this close together.
And also, there's a drone show. They do a drone show as well.
Huh.
Not here. It's in Pompano. I don't know the date, but it's once a year as well. And it's funny because they're using drones for war everywhere. So maybe they put some of those drones out there. They actually in the sky. There was the drones did the formation of the president.
Oh,
They don't
wow.
announce it, but you could tell it was Trump. They put Trump in the air. Everyone started clapping when they did that. But that was believe last year when I went there. The Pompano
Wow.
drone show. So you have a little bit of everything out here. There's always something to do. What we don't
Interesting.
have is what we don't have is people that need to wear masks like they do in New York if you're doing enforcement. So now I guess the mask part went from you need to wear a mask, then don't wear a mask, and then take
Yeah.
your mask off. You've
Now
had
you just can't wear a
evolution for
mask.
5 years. Don't wear the
That
mask. Wear the
scene?
mask. Go to jail if you wear it.
No,
Oh, if you're
that
not wearing it,
scene
go to
in
jail.
Bronx Tale where all the bikers come to his bar and he's asking them politely to leave, and they're like making all kinds of. Then he locks the door. He says, "Now you just can't leave."
Yep.
He beat the
That's what it
crap out
feels
of him.
like.
Yeah.
I literally, I get it all the time from people. Friend of mine's about to move down here, and he was telling me, he's like, listen, I have my family. I can't take, you just can't live in New York City anymore. You can't live in the area. And he's moving down here. And there it is. That's one of the that's when they show him the like, I guess that's the not presidential seal, but the American seal. And eventually they do put up, it looks like Trump. They won't say that. Oh, the Marines.
It's kind of better than
This is all
fireworks,
drones.
isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's fireworks, but this is all drones. This is not uh it's not what you think. It's not a projection. They are drones. And they wait all year. One day on a Saturday, I believe it's when they all go up there. You see them too, all the drones leaving wherever they're from. I'm like, oh, so is that how they do it with the military? I'm trying to see how they do things, but I think these are different kind of drones because then the regular people have their own drones, and I
Hmm.
think the drones in the sky are taking video of the show itself because you
Right.
see drones up in the air while you're on the beach, and I guess it's taking aerial shots or observing or whatever. Because
Hmm.
you could own your own drone out here, and they don't say anything. So this is a fascinating show, by the way. It's just very
Definitely.
crowded on the beach because you got to wait almost all day until the sun goes down, and then they start doing the drone show.
But Sal, what about the UFO files that are finally being released? What do you think
I
of that?
guess that's your distraction, right? Well,
It
if UFOs
seems.
are real,
Yeah.
UFOs are. Don't pay attention, Iran. Don't talk about that. Just this is what we got to worry about now. There's
The
UFOs.
UFOs. might be real, but I don't think they're going to tell us anything about it. But wait a minute, let's just focus in for a second, because I want to talk about this masks thing. And I think one of the things that our viewers really enjoy about this show is your real world experience in law enforcement. I sort of represent the ignorant public asking you specific questions about these things, and you have, first of all, vast experience, and second of all, unique knowledge into certain particular aspects of law enforcement. So on the one hand, I do feel like we generally don't want masked law enforcement officers in the United States of America. But at the same time, these ICE agents have been targeted by lunatics going to their houses and stuff like that. And the courts and the district attorneys have demonstrated that they're more interested in prosecuting the law enforcement officers than they are the law breakers. So it creates this kind of tension and pretty unique problem. What can you say about that?
So what's going on with this? I understand that ICE, they've been wearing face coverings, but the reason they do that is because these people look to dox them. And listen, it's like a double-edged sword. Some of these ICE agents have absolutely no business being out in the street. They, do regular car stops on people. They've arrested regular citizens. They've basically done what you saw recently in the New York City Police Department, where they beat up people for filming them, which is not illegal. Some of them don't know what's
not
going
illegal
on around them
to film. Yes,
It's not illegal
to
to
beat
film
people
someone.
up.
No, and they do. They've thrown guys on the ground. They took a guy's camera. There's all kinds of videos, crazy stuff all over the country. But again, they weren't trained. Remember, they only did training for about 6 to 8 weeks online on a course. So they're kind of like contracted to do that work. They're not really ICE agents that came through Homeland Security. They're like from various different law enforcement agencies around the United States. So that'll be something that'll be spoken about more in the future when all the lawsuits come down, because ICE only has 100% jurisdiction 100 miles from each border. After that, you have to follow city and state laws, which they don't. And New York is going to be a problem for them because they're making laws directly trying to stop whatever it is they're trying to stop with them. So this mask thing, I get it, because these guys don't want to get doxxed. They'll find you. They'll put your address online. They do all these crazy things, these people. But at the same time, all of law enforcement in New York State or New York City, they don't wear masks. They wear masks when it's like -5 degrees outside. But it's not something you normally see. Now the weather is nice, 60, 70 degrees. What are you wearing a mask for? And it's not deemed like a part of your uniform. So technically, if you're in a police department, you can get in trouble for being out of uniform wearing a mask. So if a police officer can't do it, why is Homeland Security doing it? So I understand the argument. But what makes this hypocritical, Jason, is, as you know, not even 6 years ago, they literally were trying to enforce mask mandates. And when they were doing this, you saw people around this country getting locked up for not wearing a mask. They would go in your place of business. It looked like the Gestapo, which is this is why I throw up red flags and say, when all these guys say back the blue and all this, you better, each individual, listen, we're all pro-police. We understand the law enforcement, but that is the right arm of politicians or, the rulers of the world. If they need enforcement, they're going to use police departments. So you need to keep them in check. So when they're running around and they're knocking on your door, and I saw those videos too, you're not complying, mask orders. Some of these guys went straight Stasi. So you're trying to prevent this. So there was a time when they wanted us to enforce these things. I didn't give a damn. I was sitting in the street, I don't care if you wear your mask or you don't. I really don't. I think this is all BS if you ask me.
So wait a second. When you were still with the NYPD, you're saying they wanted you to enforce it. First question, before we get to that, how you mentioned that these ICE officers are only trained for 6 to 8 weeks. How long is the training for the NYPD?
At least 6 months. So how are you getting everything in 2 months online? There's no physical, you're not, so you're thrusted out there and saying, oh, you learned everything on a computer in your prior law enforcement experience. No, this is different. ICE, Homeland Security is different than a local law enforcement or a state law enforcement. You're enforcing, you better know all the laws, all the procedures. Again, you got to know the case law. It's the same thing in every agency, just that each agency is different. So you can't just go out there. I'm federal. I could do what I want. Actually, you could end up indicted like the guy in Minnesota was, right? Because you can't just run around and do crazy things and think, oh, I'm federal. It doesn't work that way. You still, there are laws. The state laws actually almost are more important than the federal law. Each state is its own. It's like they have their own sovereign entity, meaning each state, New York law, you live in this state or you live in New Jersey, those laws pertain to you. Your
But
federal law
what
comes
about
in.
the Supremacy Clause of the Constitution?
But so the issue then becomes you're not looking for a guy.
Whoop, Sal? Uh-oh. We got a little freeze action. Sal, you got me? Wait a minute now. This happened to us one time before. We lost
Court
Sal.
hearing. So that's
we lost
the
you
issue.
there for a second. You froze up for a second. So we were talking about the Supremacy Clause when a state law conflicts with the federal law. Sorry.
Yeah. So here's the issue. When you have civil enforcement, which is what this is, you're not going after someone because they're wanted for an actual crime, meaning they committed a murder, a homicide, which then you see that collaboration. Each jurisdiction has the right to say, I don't want to participate in this, or I'm going to collaborate with you. Now, it's their prerogative. Remember, each city, each town, each state has their own laws. So when ICE rolls around, they want to do civil enforcement, right? That's what they're doing. When they wait for a guy outside of court or whatever the case is, they're looking to go after this ICE detainee warrant. The police department has the right to either collaborate with them or not. New York City and the state is saying, we don't want to collaborate with them, which that is their prerogative. So there is communication that when there are people that are actually wanted for real crimes, then they all collaborate on, which happens a lot. JTTF, FBI, NYPD. But in this instance, when it's just ICE going to enforce a civil matter, which is what this is, they're on their own. And they don't have this jurisdiction. Everyone thinks 100 miles past the border, which is why they get indicted for beating people up or shooting them. That could happen in New York. It happened in any state other than the surrounding bordered states, 100 miles past the border. That's what ICE has the right to do. So knowing these laws is important, which is where they're getting.
We're losing you again, so.
Yeah, sorry, I don't like you.
Knowing these laws are important, and that's where what happens?
This is why, to know the laws of each state and to know the laws of
that's where the training comes in.
And but they're not getting trained. So freeze up again?
Yeah, it's weird. No, you're back.
But okay, so the mask thing, I could understand the argument from New York, and I could also understand the argument for law enforcement. But from my point of view, if the NYPD or the New York State Troopers or whatever agency cannot do it themselves, I shouldn't be doing it either, because you are all uniform. That's all law enforcement. So you're wearing a mask, but I can as a cop. Why not? I don't want people looking at my face either. Right.
But isn't it true from the standpoint of civilians? If somebody in New York City, I mean, it's not like, hey, I know a lot of the hairbag society thinks it is, but it's not us versus them. The police are supposed to serve the public trust. So therefore, operating in anonymity is not what it's supposed to be about. Likewise, the police have certain qualified immunity and should be protected. Any person putting on a law enforcement badge, going out to interface with dangerous criminals,
Yeah.
should have the confidence that the district attorneys, the courts, the law will stand behind them, rather than so often we are seeing the police getting thrown under the bus. There's a lot of bias in the courts. And with these, we saw, setting aside specifically ICE and NYPD, when the leftist maniacs didn't like what the courts were doing, they went to judges' houses. I mean, there are federal laws against that, and yet
Correct. You
no
can't do it. There's
enforcement
no laws.
whatsoever. So if
There's
they're
laws
going to make
against that,
these
period.
ICE guys appear, shouldn't they also bolster the law, saying, by the way, if you post anything on the internet doxing a law enforcement agent, there's some new penalty where you're going to immediately go to jail, so that people don't do that?
Yeah, there should be laws in place that you can't just dox an agent or a cop for. Now, I understand that the information might be public. Like we were discussing not even a few weeks ago when a certain officer got a bunch of summonses on his car, and then the journalist showed up to the home, and people were like, oh, but you can't do that. No, he can do that. He's not putting that address out in the internet. He's going to ask questions. He's a journalist. He has the right to do that. It's when you then put this up on a public platform and say, Joe lives here, Officer Joe lives here, all that kind of
Go
stuff,
get
which
him.
is what
Yeah.
these people have done. But still, look, you can't work in anonymity no matter where you work when you work for a government agency / public agency. You're an ICE agent, therefore, there is no anonymity. You could get caught up. You're running around with guns on you, with body armor. You work for the public. So, you know,
Hmm.
and why you would want to keep.
We're having all these internet problems here.
Now they are, right? The state can now try to prosecute you, I believe, Kathy Hochul and them, which, again, it's funny because just a couple of years ago, they wanted to prosecute people for not wearing their masks in regards to the entire pandemic that
Look,
occurred.
that's the
So
other thing. What happens,
it's,
because we've heard a lot about this hantavirus, which, I mean, I'm not personally concerned about it. I think there's a lot of viruses around all the
yeah,
time that you could get. Don't lick the toilets on a cruise ship is my advice. That's not medical advice. And I'm not a doctor, but I think a lot of people are already anticipating that they're going to, mandate whatever. What then happens if they say ICE agents can't wear masks? Now you have to wear masks.
yeah, that wouldn't be right, though. For me, again, the mask thing, it's funny to us because of what happened not even 6 years ago. But in reality, if you just look at law enforcement in general, if the New York City Police Department doesn't allow officers to wear masks every single day, why should an ICE agent be allowed to? Why is a state trooper can't do that? And I know that their names are on, their uniform. I don't know how ICE's uniform, I guess there's different agents and different officers in Homeland Security wearing different things, but to wear the mask, I don't, and it also restricts your breathing. I don't know what that's about other than
the other thing they should do,
hiding your face.
they should say that you're not allowed to come to a public protest wearing a mask, and you're not
Not
allowed
true.
to be in public wearing a mask unless it's for medical purposes. And if you are at a public protest wearing a mask and you have a medical condition, then you're not suitable to participate in a protest. If you are clashing with the police wearing a mask, that should be an immediately arrestable offense. That will be one way to stop some of these people.
Did you not see what happened the other day at Wyckoff Medical Center so Saturday night there was a big McGilla out there, right? You saw ICE had done a car stop on someone. They actually were looking for someone who they were doing civil enforcement, which they're allowed to do, right? That's what they're supposed to do. They have a mission. And the guy went to the hospital, and then they did the whole flop. He's in handcuffs. Next thing you know, the NYPD has to be there because there was a huge, huge protest that became a riot because the people that were there versus the people that ended up showing up like a few hours later had a completely different mindset. and they got very violent. They were throwing things. They were punching people, punching officers, NYPD officers. And I want to reiterate this so people understand. The NYPD does not collaborate with ICE during civil enforcement. They have never been allowed, haven't been allowed to do this in forever. What they are doing is keeping the peace. They don't want civil unrest for everyone's safety, whether it be the protesters, definitely the rioters, definitely innocent people, definitely the ICE agents and the guy they're detaining that is in handcuffs, which they started surrounding, which was insane. If you see the video, it was out of control. It was Olia Scootercaster, freedomnews.tv.
Oh, of course.
He had
Yeah.
this whole, I mean, it was crazy. And this kind of shows you a look into what the NYPD deals with. Now, I see some politicians jumping all over this, but this is when they try to conflate two things. A few weeks ago, you saw a beating essentially given by two detectives that didn't have a radio. That would, it's just wrong to be hitting a guy in handcuffs. It says extrajudicial punishment. That's just the bottom line. None of this constant in the head kicking, then he's handcuffed, you kick him again. That's not what they train you to do. And then you have protesters turned to rioters that are now throwing barriers. And now it's the opposite. Now the police department, they are on the offense trying to harm you. You have to do what you have to do to arrest them. So they're violent. They're not going pretty. That's a real resisting arrest. So that's a different instance. And I see supervisors on scene that don't know what to do. They're not giving orders. They're not leading. And police officers looking around. What are we supposed to do? Because there's a protest settlement agreement they have to oblige by, meaning SRG. They're not too far away, but they can't just show up. You can't just have them come because it has to go all the way up the chain. The chief of department, Hansi LePetri, he's asleep at the wheel. His executive O'Hare, remember that guy? Oh, that's the chief that let his crony sergeant friend masturbate in a bathroom in Penn Station with 5 other perverts, and he didn't go to jail. I think he got suspended only after we exposed us. He was modified. I think he only got a summons. That's not a summonsable offense. You arrested everyone else there. So these are the people that are calling the shots, that are really putting the NYPD and the rank and file in a real predicament. So this entire issue is many different many different boxes to check. It's not all their fault, and the cops do what they do, but one extreme to the other. Don't conflate two things and try to make them one. Oh, brutality. ICE had a job to do and the police had a job to do, and no, they're not together doing anything. What the cops are doing is trying to keep civil unrest from breaking out. And ICE was just taking a detainee that they had because the guy had a warrant. They did a civil enforcement. It was fine. I see people were filming them and saying it's wrong. And look, you want to try to sue ICE, go ahead, the civil liberties. But as far as the NYPD goes, they're doing their job. But they also, you're not supposed to be throwing barriers and punching them and throwing garbage.
That's Waffle House training.
It was crazy. The scene was insane. And it got even worse a couple of days later at a synagogue.
Now,
Where
so
once
hang
again,
on.
the same thing repeated itself.
We're going to get into more of those details, but we're almost out of time here. People are going to be able to join us for an in-depth conversation on thesalgreco.substack.com. People can also see that on crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com, on subscribestar.com, and patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. We should also tell people, Sal, that they can support you by going to salgreco.com. You and I have been experimenting with some new approaches, having this show live on X at the Sal Greco, and also for the first time today, we've got a live simulcast on the Sal Greco show on YouTube. So welcome to everybody who is, we've got 11 viewers. People don't know about it yet, but more people are going to watch.
Yeah, we don't know because we experimented on this today to see how this works. There's a lot of social engineering going on because, as you know, you can't go from your live show having 1,000 and 1,500 and all the way to 2,000 views to then 300. someone at YouTube, look, I don't know what you're doing, but you are a social engineer. You pick winners and losers, and you should be sued into oblivion because your platform is take your governors off and make everything even. Algorithm this, algorithm that. That's not how media started. It's just here it is, and it's every man and woman for themselves, and whatever the people choose, they choose. But you want to pick winners and losers. You put people on the bottom, and it's just impossible for people to go from 1,500 to 2,000 views to then 300. So we're experimenting, trying to figure this out now. People don't know Jason's channel. The Jason Goodman channel, the original Crowdsource the Truth channel, has 115,000 subscribers. There's no way that he fluctuates from 19,000 views to 300 views from live video to live video. That's social engineering. You understand? Because it, by the numbers, numerically, it makes no sense. And I'm all over this, and I know they like to censor people because you bring up the truth, but that is the truth. If you look at his channel, literally, at least every show, he should have at least 1,500 views no matter what, because you get at least 10%, right? So 100,000 is 10, 115,000 being like 100, about 1,500 views a video at the bare minimum.
You'd hope.
But then we see it's 300, and it's crazy. One's 19,000, one's 500, and it's back to 1,500, and it's all over the place. You need to see consistency, because the social engineers, Candace Owens and Laura Loomer and all these other big names, they have the same numbers no matter what. So how is that?
It's
You're
difficult
picking
to
winners
say.
and losers. I figured this one out.
They might be. I think they might be. But Sal, we'll be back in just a few minutes. People are going to be able to follow us to our sponsor exclusive segment. They can support you on salgreco.com and help us keep the show going. Stay with us, everybody. We'll be back in less than 5 minutes.